The rain poured endlessly over the small coastal town of Windermere. The sea roared as if it carried the voices of forgotten souls, and the streets shimmered with reflections of lantern light. In the middle of the storm, a young girl named Alara stood at the window of her grandmother's cottage, her hands pressed tightly against the glass. She was waiting for someone who had promised to return long ago. Alara's life had always been touched by mystery. Her parents had disappeared when she was a child, lost at sea during a voyage that no villager ever spoke about. Raised by her grandmother, she learned stories of the ocean, of its fury and its blessings. Yet deep inside, she always felt that her destiny was tied not just to the waves, but to something far greater, something hidden beneath them. Tonight, as the thunder shook the earth, Alara noticed a light far out in the water. It flickered, bright as a star, refusing to be swallowed by the storm. Her heart raced. Could it be the same light she had dreamed of for years? She grabbed her lantern, threw on her cloak, and rushed out of the cottage. Her grandmother called after her, warning her not to venture near the cliffs in such weather, but Alara was already running, her feet splashing through puddles, her hair drenched by rain. She didn't care. The light was calling her, pulling her with an invisible thread of fate. As she reached the cliffs, the waves below crashed like wild beasts, but the light remained steady, floating above the chaos. Suddenly, a voice echoed, not in her ears, but in her mind. "Alara, it is time." She froze. The voice was familiar, filled with warmth yet carrying a weight of sorrow. She whispered, "Father?" But the wind drowned her words. The light grew stronger, shaping itself into a figure cloaked in shimmering silver. A man, standing above the sea as if the waves obeyed him. His eyes glowed with the same brilliance Alara had seen in her dreams. "Alara," the figure said again, "the sea has kept its secret long enough. You must come with me, for the fate of both worlds rests on your courage." Her heart pounded. Questions burned in her mind, but before she could speak, the ground trembled beneath her feet. From the depths of the ocean, black tendrils of shadow rose, twisting and writhing like serpents. They struck toward the silver figure, who raised his hand, creating a shield of pure light. "Alara, run," he shouted. But she couldn't. Something deep within her refused to move. Instead, she raised her lantern toward the darkness. The flame inside flickered wildly, then burst into a brilliant blue fire, cutting through the storm like lightning. The shadows recoiled, hissing, and for a brief moment, Alara felt the same power flowing through her veins, the power of the sea, the power of light, and something far more ancient than both. The figure smiled, even as the shadows dragged him back into the depths. "Find me, Alara. Find the truth." With a final flash of silver, he vanished beneath the waves. Alara fell to her knees, her lantern still burning with a strange blue flame. She knew now that the life she had lived until this night was over. The sea had chosen her. Her destiny had begun. The storm had passed by dawn, leaving Windermere washed clean yet eerily silent. The sea was calmer now, but Alara's heart carried the weight of the night's encounter. She hadn't slept at all. Her lantern, still glowing faintly with that strange blue fire, rested beside her bed. No matter how many times she blinked, the flame didn't die. It was alive, like a heartbeat echoing her own. Her grandmother noticed the change in her immediately. "Child," she said softly while pouring tea into clay cups, "your eyes, they look like the sea before sunrise. Tell me what you've done." Alara hesitated. How could she explain what she had seen? The silver figure, the voice that called her name, the shadows rising from the deep. Yet she couldn't keep it locked inside. She told her grandmother everything, her voice trembling with awe and fear. The old woman grew pale. She sat heavily in her chair, her hands clutching the cup. "So, the sea guardian has finally shown himself," she whispered. Alara's eyes widened. "You know him?" Her grandmother nodded slowly. "Your father did not vanish in a storm as the villagers believe. He was chosen by the sea, chosen to guard its greatest secret. The guardian you saw may have been your father, or what remains of him." The word struck Alara like a wave. Her knees weakened, and she gripped the table. You mean he's alive? Alive in ways you may not understand, her grandmother replied. But child, this is not a blessing. It is a burden. The sea does not give without taking. Alara's thoughts swirled. The voice in her head, the lantern's flame, the power she had felt, it all connected to her father. She was not just a girl waiting by the shore. She was part of something far larger, something terrifying and magnificent. Later that day, she walked along the beach, waves brushing her feet. Children played, fishermen mended their nets, but Alara felt as though she stood in another world. Her lantern hung at her side, the flame flickering blue, even in daylight. That's when she noticed him, a stranger standing near the rocks, sketching in a notebook. His clothes were travel-worn, his boots covered in salt and sand. His hair, dark and damp from the sea breeze, framed eyes that seemed far too sharp, as if they saw more than they should. When he noticed her, he closed the notebook quickly. "Strange lantern you carry," he said casually. Alara stiffened. "It's just an old family heirloom." The man smiled faintly. "Old?"
No.
"That flame is new."
Rare.
"Dangerous." He stepped closer. "My name is Kale. I've been searching for someone like you." Her heart skipped. "Someone like me?" Kale lowered his voice. "The sea has marked you. I can see its light in your aura. Do you know what that means?" Alara clutched the lantern protectively. "It means I should stay away from strangers who talk about auras." But Kale didn't leave. His eyes were serious. "It means the darkness will come for you. The shadows that rose last night, they belong to the abyss, a force older than the sea itself. If you do not learn to control your gift, they will consume you and everything you love." Alara's breath caught. His words echoed the fear already growing in her chest. "Why should I trust you?" she asked. "Because," Kale replied, opening his notebook to show intricate sketches of the same shadows she had seen. "I have fought them before. And because your father once saved my life." The name struck her again like thunder. "You knew my father?" Kale nodded. "He was more than a man, he was the guardian. And now the sea has chosen you." Silence hung between them, heavy and filled with destiny. Alara turned toward the horizon, where the ocean stretched infinite and unforgiving. She felt the lantern's flame pulsing, urging her forward. Finally, she said, "If what you say is true, then teach me. Teach me to fight what's coming." Kale's smile was grim. "Very well. But remember, once you walk this path, there is no turning back." That night, under a sky glittering with stars, Kale led Alara to the cliffs where she had first seen the guardian. He taught her how to focus on the flame, how to let its power flow through her instead of consuming her. The blue light grew stronger in her lantern, casting shadows that writhed like living things. She trembled as the power coursed through her veins, but Kale's voice guided her. "Breathe with the tide. Let the sea speak through you. You are not its master. You are its vessel." As she closed her eyes, Alara felt herself sink into a vision. She was standing in the middle of the ocean, yet the water held her gently, like a cradle. The silver figure appeared once more, distant but clear. "Alara," he said, "do not fear the darkness. Fear what will happen if you ignore it." She reached out, but the vision shattered. She opened her eyes, gasping, as the lantern's flame flared so brightly it lit the entire cliffside. Kale shielded his eyes, whispering, "By the tides, she's stronger than he was." Alara fell to her knees, exhausted but alive with power. She finally understood. Her journey was not about waiting anymore. It was about stepping into the unknown, into the depths, and finding the truth that the sea had guarded for centuries. And she was ready. Or, at least, she wanted to be. The days that followed felt like a dream woven from threads of fear and wonder. Alara trained under Kale's guidance, learning to summon the flame, to bend it into shapes that could shield or strike. At first, the lantern seemed heavy, its power wild and uncontrollable. But with each passing night, she grew stronger, more attuned to the rhythm of the sea that now lived in her veins. The villagers noticed the change. Some whispered in awe, others in fear. Fishermen bowed their heads when she passed, while children peeked curiously at the strange glow she carried. Her grandmother remained her quiet anchor, reminding her to eat, to rest, to remember she was still human even when the sea tried to claim her soul. But not everyone welcomed her gift. One evening, as the sun bled into the horizon, Alara returned from training to find a crowd gathered near her home. Angry voices rose above the crash of waves. "She brings ruin upon us," one fisherman shouted. "Storms follow her steps," cried another. "She consorts with shadows." At the center of the mob stood Elder Doran, the village leader, his stern face illuminated by torchlight. He raised his hand, silencing the crowd. "Alara," he said, "you must leave. Your flame draws the abyss. Already our nets come back empty, our boats tossed by restless tides. You're cursed." Alara's heart tightened. She wanted to scream that she was protecting them, not harming them. But when she opened her mouth, no words came. She saw the fear in their eyes, the same fear she felt every night when shadows clawed at the edge of her dreams. Before she could speak, Cale stepped forward, his voice sharp as steel. "You fools. Without her, you'd already be swallowed by the abyss. The sea has chosen her, not cursed her." The elder sneered. "And who are you to speak for the sea? A wanderer with no kin, no roots? You endanger us with your lies." The crowd murmured agreement, their fear turning to anger. Stones clattered against the ground near Alara's feet. Her grandmother emerged from the house, her frail frame trembling but her voice firm. "She is my blood. If she leaves, I leave with her. But know this, if you drive her away, you will face the sea alone. And the sea has no mercy." The silence that followed was heavy. The villagers lowered their torches, but the damage was done. Alara understood she could no longer call this place home. That night, she packed her few belongings. The lantern burned steadily at her side, casting a blue glow across the walls she had grown up within. She touched the doorframe one last time, memories flooding her heart. Then she turned away. Cale waited outside, his expression unreadable. "It's time," he said. Alara nodded. "Where do we go?" "Into the depths," he replied. "The abyss won't wait much longer." Their journey began at the cliffs, where the ocean roared against jagged stone. Cale revealed a hidden path leading down into a cave carved by centuries of waves. Inside, the air was damp and cold, the walls etched with symbols that glowed faintly as the lantern's flame drew near. "This is the Gate of Tides," Cale explained. "Your father opened it once, long ago. Beyond lies the heart of the sea, and the abyss." Alara's pulse quickened. The silver figure from her visions lingered at the edge of her mind, calling her forward. She lifted the lantern, and the blue flame surged, unlocking the stone door with a deep, echoing groan. They stepped inside. The world beyond was unlike anything Alara had imagined. A vast cavern stretched out, filled with water that shimmered like liquid glass. Strange fish darted beneath the surface, their scales reflecting countless colors. At the center of the cavern rose a pillar of coral, twisting upward like a frozen flame. And at its base, the shadows waited. They writhed like smoke, darker than night, their shapes shifting into monstrous forms. Eyes opened within the darkness, glowing red with hunger. A voice echoed through the chamber, deep and cold. "Alara." She froze. The voice was her father's. "Come to me, daughter. Join me. Together we will rule the tides." Her grip on the lantern faltered. The flame pulsed, responding to the call. Tears blurred her vision. "Father?" Cale's voice cut through her doubt. "Don't listen. That's not him. It's the abyss twisting his memory." But the figure that rose from the shadows wore her father's face, his silver hair, his strong hands reaching toward her. "I've waited for you," he said. "You carry my legacy. Don't fight it." Alara's heart tore in two. The longing to embrace him battled the warning echoing in Cale's words. She stepped forward, then stopped, trembling. The lantern flared suddenly, brighter than ever before. The blue flame spoke, not in words but in feeling. It showed her the truth. Her father had been consumed, his essence bound within the abyss. What stood before her was not the man she loved, but a shadow wearing his skin. Alara's tears turned to fire. She raised the lantern high. "You are not my father," she said, her voice steady despite the breaking inside her. "You are his prison, and I will set him free." The shadows screamed, a sound that shook the cavern. They surged toward her, claws and fangs of darkness. Kale drew his blade, striking at the nearest forms, but it was Alara's flame that held them back. She closed her eyes, focusing on the tide within her veins. She felt the rhythm of the sea, the heartbeat of the world. The flame responded, growing into a blazing inferno of blue light. The shadow wearing her father's face roared, its form unraveling. "You cannot defeat me. I am endless." Alara's voice rang like thunder. "Then I will be endless too." With a cry, she unleashed the lantern's full power. The cavern filled with light, brighter than the sun, banishing every shadow. The abyss writhed, shrieking as it dissolved into nothingness. And for a fleeting moment, she saw her father, his true self, free of corruption. He smiled, gentle and proud. "Alara, my brave girl." His form shimmered and faded, carried away by the tide. When the light dimmed, silence reigned. The cavern was empty, save for Alara and Kale. The lantern's flame flickered softly, no longer wild but calm, steady, like the beating of a heart finally at peace. Alara sank to her knees, exhausted. Kale placed a hand on her shoulder. "You did it," he said quietly. She shook her head. "We did it. And my father, he's finally free." They returned to the surface as dawn painted the sky. The sea was calm, the air fresh, as though the world itself had been cleansed. Alara stood at the edge of the cliffs, the lantern glowing softly in her hand. Kale looked at her with quiet respect. "What will you do now?" Alara gazed at the horizon, where sky and sea kissed. For the first time, she felt no fear, only strength. "I will guard this world, as my father once did. The sea chose me, and I choose to protect it." Kale smiled faintly. "Then I will stand with you, wherever the tides may take us." And together, they turned toward the horizon, where new storms brewed and new adventures awaited. Alara was no longer the girl who waited by the shore. She was the guardian of the sea, the light against the darkness, the voice that carried through the waves. And her story had only just begun.